friends, and welcome back to Chinese History and Mythology. Last episode, we actually followed three storylines at once. The political chaos inside the state of Song, the military actions involving Qi and Zan, and finally, Zhou King Wan's failed attempt to personally strike Zhen. Let's begin with Song. After Song Lord Shang took the throne, he kept looking for a chance to attack Zheng, all because Prince Feng, the man he hated most, was still living in Zheng as a political refugee. He blamed Feng for everything and kept stirring up trouble with Zheng again and again. At court, the Grand Steward Huadu had always been close to Prince Feng at the same time. He was deeply jealous of King Fuji, the man who held real military power and who had a famously beautiful wife. Lady Wei Huadu saw his chance. He stirred up anger among the soldiers, blaming all the people suffering on King Fuji. The troops were pushed to the breaking point. They stormed the Kang residence and killed King Fuji on the spot. Huadu himself rushed into the inner quarters and tried to take Lady Wei by force. Lady Wei refused with everything she had, and in the end, she hanged herself in the carriage rather than be taken. When Lord Shang heard what happened, he was furious. He wanted to punish Huadu immediately, but Huadu simply went all the way. He used the chaos he had created, led the soldiers again, and killed Lord Shang right at Kong Fuji's gate. Afterward, he put on mourning clothes, pretended to grieve for the Lord, and suggested inviting Prince Feng home to become the new ruler. That is how Prince Feng returned and became Song Lord Zhuang from that moment on. Real power in Song rested entirely in Huadu's hands. Now let's move to Qi. The northern Rong tribes suddenly launched a massive invasion, and Qi's own troops could not hold the line. Song Lord Zhuang immediately sent his heir, Prince Hu, to ride to Qi's rescue, who used a clever strategy. He let the Rong advance deeper, then struck from two sides. The Rong army collapsed. Two Rong chieftains were killed right on the field. Qi Lord Shu was so grateful that he wanted, right then and there, to marry his beloved daughter Princess Wenjiang to Prince Hu, but Prince Hu refused. He felt that if he accepted a major political marriage right after winning a battle, people would gossip, saying he used military victory to marry up. He didn't want that shadow on his reputation. Meanwhile, Princess Wenjiang was already carrying emotional knots in her heart, first, because this marriage fell apart, and second, because she had a secret and inappropriate attachment to her older brother Zhou, with whom she had grown up in the end. She was forced to marry Duke Huan of Lu. This Grand Qilu alliance looked perfect on the surface, but underneath, it planted the seeds for a major disaster later. And finally, the big war. Zhou King Wan's campaign against Xin. King Wan believed Shang Lord Zhuang had falsely claimed the king's orders when he attacked Shang years earlier, and he felt personally insulted, so he took matters into his own hands. He personally led a combined army from Katai Wei and Chengge and marched straight toward Zheng. Zheng Lord Zhuang responded with a very calm, very calculated strategy. Hold the line first. Don't answer the challenge. Let the king's troops burn through their energy and morale then. When the moment was right, he ordered 3 divisions to attack at once. The Zhou army quickly lost its formation in the chaos. The Xin general Zhu Dan shot an arrow and hit King Wan in the shoulder. If the armor had been any thinner, the arrow might have killed him outright. It nearly turned into an accidental regicide. Zhen Lord Zhuang sensed the danger immediately. He ordered his troops to pull back and refused to let the battle spiral out of control. That same night, he sent Zhu to the royal camp to apologize, bringing gifts and saying it was a battlefield accident, not intentional harm to the king. King Wan was humiliated and furious. But with Guogong Linfu urging him to accept the apology, he had no choice but to swallow it. Quietly he took the gifts, said nothing more, and pretended the matter was resolved. After that battle, Zhang's military prestige stood firm, and King Wan never again dared speak of attacking Zheng. On the march home, though, the ruler of Katai began to think differently. He heard that the state of Chen was in chaos. Its ruler had seized the throne by killing the former crown prince, and the people were deeply unhappy. Sai's ruler saw an opening. He thought, Chen is weak. Their people don't support their ruler. If I strike now, I might win big. And if the king asks, I can always say, I'm helping the Zhou court punish a rebellious state. So he turned his army around and marched straight toward Chen, planning a surprise attack. After Duke Huan of Chen died, his younger brother, Prince Tu, killed the crown prince and grabbed the throne for himself. Everyone in Chen knew exactly what had happened, and no one in their hearts accepted him, but for the moment, they had no way to resist. Duke Huan of Chen had a son named Yue. Yue was born to one of Wan's side consorts, a woman from the state of Kai, known as Lady Kati. So if you work out the family tree, the ruler of Kai, the Marquis of Kai, was actually Yue's real uncle on his mother's side. At that time, King Wan of Zhou ordered Chen and Sai to go on campaign together against Zhou. Chen sent a general named Bo Yuanju to lead their troops. Kai sent the Marquis of Tasai's younger brother, Kaiji, to command their army. The two forces marched side by side on the road. Kaiji deliberately tried to draw him out, hoping to get more inside news about Chen. One day, when the two armies stopped to rest during the march, Kaiji pretended to chat casually and asked Bo Yuanju, "I heard your new ruler, Prince Tu, only became Lord of Chen after killing the Crown Prince. How do the common people feel about that?" Bo Yuanzhou sighed and answered very bluntly, "It's not as if the people don't know. Everybody knows in their hearts. They all see him as a rebel, a traitor who murdered his own lord, but he holds the soldiers and the power who dares speak out. What's worse, he doesn't care about state affairs at all. He only cares about his own pleasures. Most of all, hunting. He often puts on plain cloth clothes, dresses like a commoner, rides out of the city to hunt, and doesn't show up in court to listen to business. He ignores government completely if it goes on like this. Something bad is bound to happen sooner or later." Taiji went straight to the point. If that's the case, why not arrest him, charge him with his crimes, and execute him? Bo Yuanju gave a bitter smile and said, "It's not that I don't want to. I simply don't have enough strength. The troops directly under me are too few, and my clan isn't large. If I move against him with what I have, I'll only get myself killed first." Taiji remembered that answer very clearly. Later, when King Wan of Zhou lost his war against Zhang, the armies of Chen and Tai retreated, along with the royal forces, and each went back to their own lands. Taiji went home and told his brother, the Marquis of Tai, everything he had heard along the way from Bo Yuanju. As soon as the Marquis of Sihai heard it, he slapped the table. Now that Crown Prince Mian is dead, by proper line of inheritance, the throne of Chen should go to our nephew, Yue. That would be the legitimate line. This too killed his lord and stole the throne. He's a usurper and a traitor. How can we just let him sit there as ruler of Chen? That won't do. Taiji followed up with a plan. He loves hunting so much and runs off to the countryside all the time. We can use that. Next time he leaves the city in plain clothes to go hunting, we send troops to lie in ambush on the way. We capture him and kill him out there. Clean, fast, and done in one move. The Marquis of Kai was very pleased and decided on the spot. Good, we'll do it exactly like that. So he secretly ordered Saiji to take 100 war chariots and quietly move to the border area between Sai and Chen. They hid in the woods and along the small roads, waiting for one thing only: the news that Tu has gone out hunting again. A few days later, a scout rushed back to camp with a report. The ruler of Chen left the city to hunt 3 days ago. Right now, he's very close to where we are. Taiji heard this and knew the moment had come. He said, "Good, this time it's our turn to act." He immediately divided his men into 10 groups. Each group changed into coarse cloth clothes. Putting on the look of ordinary hunters, some carried bows, some led hunting dogs, and they slowly moved in the direction of Tu's hunting party. On the other side, Chen Tu was having a great time. Hunting someone in his party had just shot a deer, and everyone was cheering. Sai Yi drove his chariot forward, pretending to be just another hunter, and rushed straight in to snatch that deer without a word. Chen Tu was furious in his mind. He was the ruler of the state. To have someone steal his game in public was a huge insult. He shouted, "Who are you, to dare steal my prey?" Then he spurred his horse himself and charged forward, trying to seize Taiji. Taiji saw that Tu had taken the bait and come in person. He immediately turned his chariot around, acted scared, looked back as he fled, and drove off at full speed. Tu, of course, refused to let him get away. He rode hard with his guards and chased with everything he had. Just then, a signal sounded ahead. Just as they had agreed beforehand, the 10 groups of hunters moved all at once. The men who had been scattered on both sides in the trees suddenly stepped out together and blocked the road completely. With an ambush in front and pursuers behind, Tu and his escort were trapped in the middle in an instant. Taiji stood up on his chariot and shouted loudly, "Chen Tu, listen carefully. I am not some random man. I am Taiji, younger brother of the Marquis of Kai. You killed your lord and seized the throne. Everyone under heaven knows you are a usurper and a traitor. Today I have come by order of the Marquis of Kai to punish you, the murderer of your own ruler. We only want your life, as for the rest of you. If you are willing to obey orders, lay down your arms, and follow us, you will not be killed." By now, the soldiers with Chu had figured it out. This man was here to avenge the former ruler of Chen, and many of them, in their hearts, had never accepted Chen Tu anyway. So when they heard this, most of them simply dropped to their knees and shouted, "If this is to avenge the former lord, we are willing to follow your orders." Taiji took the chance to speak clearly. "The former lord's son, Prince Yue, is our Marquis of Sai's own nephew. We are going to put him on the throne as the new ruler. What do you think?" Everyone answered together, "If the former lord's own son can return and rule the state, that's exactly what the people want. We are willing to lead the way in front." Right there on the spot, Chaiji cut off Chen Tu's head and hung it on the front of his chariot as a sign. Then he drove straight toward the capital of Chen. The soldiers who had gone out hunting with Chen Tu now completely stood on Kaiji's side. They went ahead of his chariot, clearing the road and explaining to the people along the way, "We're not here to randomly kill people. We've come to execute the usurper and set up the rightful heir, Prince Yue, as our new lord." When the people inside the city heard what was really happening, they did not panic. In fact, some people on the streets started knocking on pots and bowls to celebrate, saying, "The usurper is finally finished." The streets were crowded, but they were not in chaos. After entering the city, Taiji first ordered that Chen Tu's head be taken to the ancestral temple of Duke Huan of Chen in front of everyone. They placed the head at the temple gate as an offering, sending a very clear message. They were cleaning the household on behalf of the former ruler and giving him an explanation in the spirit world. Only then did they move to support Prince Yue as the new ruler. Yue officially became Lord of Chen, known in history as Duke Li of Chen. As for Chen Tu, he had stolen the throne for only 1 year and 6 months. That short bit of stolen glory bought him a permanent title in the history books. A man who killed his lord and seized the throne, cursed by later generations again and again. Later historians, when they wrote about this episode, summed it up like this: "Some people killed their own ruler, thinking they will enjoy many years of wealth and power, but in the blink of an eye, they themselves are cut down by the sword." If people like Chen Tu were not publicly executed in their time, then there would only be more and more rebels and traitors under heaven. Starting from Duke Li of Chen, the state of Chen returned to the rightful line of succession again, the legitimate heir taking the throne, and because the new ruler was the Marquis of Sai's nephew, the relationship between Chen and Shai became very close for many years. The two states had no major conflicts and visited each other often. We'll leave the Chen storyline here for now and move our view further south to see how the southern state of Chu slowly began to rise. In the south, there was a state called Chu. The earliest rulers of Chu had the clan name Miritan, with a character that sounds like me, their line, if you trace it all the way back, actually claimed descent from one branch of the legendary ancient emperors. Old texts mention an ancient emperor named Juan Chou. He had a grandson named Zhong Li. Zhong Li had held office long ago as the man in charge of fire. He controlled the fire of rituals, the fire of the army, the fire of common households because he did this so well, and his fire seemed to shine over the whole world. The Son of Heaven at that time gave him a special title. Joran later, people used Joran as the name of the fire god. After Zhong Li died, that title passed to his younger brother Wu Hui. Wu Hui had a son named Lu Zong. Lu Zong married a princess from a small northern group called Guifang. According to legend, this woman was pregnant for 11 full years. In the end, she didn't give birth in a normal way. Instead, she gave birth through her ribs. First, from her left rib, as if someone had cut it open, 3 sons were born. Then, from her right rib, 3 more sons. The story says that these 6 sons each became the ancestor of a major lineage. Among these 6 sons, the youngest was named Jilian. His descendants later took me as their clan name. The earliest Shu rulers traced their origins back to this Jilian line. Among the later descendants of the Mi clan, there was a particularly famous man called Yu Zhang. He was well read and virtuous. Both King Wen of Zhou and King Wu of Zhou had studied under him, and asked for his advice. He was one of their teachers. Later, Yu Zhang's line took Zhang as a new surname, so gradually, from the old Mi clan, a new Zhang clan emerged. By the time of King Qingzhou, the king wanted to win over the southern forces, so he granted lands to Yu Zhang's great-grandson, named Zhong Yi. He was in theft in the region of the southern tribes called Jingman. His rank was not very high, only at the level of Zai or none. A low-tier noble, he was given some land and tax rights, and he built his capital at Danong at that time. Chu was still just a small state. From Zhengyi down the line, after 5 generations, the throne came to a ruler named Zhongku. Zhongku was very skilled at winning hearts. He governed well, and the people of the Zhang and Han River region supported him strongly. As the population grew and the land under his control expanded, he began to feel ambitious in private. He stopped calling himself Zinan and started calling himself king. But the Zhou ruler then, King Liu of Zhou, was known for being extreme and cruel. Zhongku was afraid of making him angry. He worried that if the king really sent an army to punish him, Chu might not withstand it so quietly. He dropped the title king again, and went back to calling himself a lower-ranked lord, on the surface still acting as a small vassal and not daring to openly defy the Zhou court. Generation after generation passed like this. By the 9th generation, the throne reached a ruler named Zhongru, styled Fenmao. After Fenmao died, his younger brother Zhong Tong killed Fenmao's son and took the throne for himself. This Zhong Tong is the ruler of Chu in the part of the story we are now entering. Zhong Tong was a very forceful man. He liked war, and his ambition was huge. The rulers before him already had the idea of wanting to be called king again, but they were pressed down by the Zhou kings and didn't dare go through with it. By the time it reached Zhong Tong, he wanted even more to restore the title of king of Chu and make himself the overlord of the south. At the same time, he knew that, in name, the Zhou king was still the son of heaven. The common lord of all many vassal states were still sending tribute and showing respect. If he suddenly stood up and said, "I am a king too," it would sound too arrogant, and he worried the other lords might join together to oppose him, so he watched and waited for a moment when the prestige of the Zhou king would fall. One day, he heard the news. King Huan of Zhou had marched in person to punish Xing, but had been defeated and even shot in the shoulder by Xing's troops, limping back to Luoyang in disgrace. Zhong Tong understood immediately. The Zhou king's awe and authority had dropped sharply. All the lords of the realm would be asking questions in their hearts. He said to himself, "This is the chance. If I don't claim the title of king now, what am I waiting for?" At this time, Chu had a high-ranking minister, the Lingyan, named Dobobi. He could see exactly what his ruler was thinking, and he said to Zhong Tong, "Our state of Chu removed the title of king generations ago. To bring that title back now is not something we can do just by saying it out loud. We first have to use military strength to subdue a whole region of small states so that no one dares object. Only then can we claim the name with a straight face," Zhong Tong asked. "Then, where should we start?" Dobobi thought it over and said, "East of the Han River, there are many small states among them. The biggest is Sui. You can first lead an army and station near Sui's border, then send an envoy to Sui and say you want alliance and peace. If Sui submits to you and forms an alliance, then all the little states along the Han and Huai rivers, seeing that Sui has already bowed to you, will follow and obey your commands as well. At that point, when you publicly call yourself king, you will have a solid base to stand on." Zhong Tong was very pleased with this plan, so he personally led a large army to a place called Jia City and set up camp there after the troops were in place. He sent a courtier named Wei Zhang as envoy to Sui to deliver his message on the surface. It was asking for peace and good relations, but in fact it was to test Sui's attitude. In Sui, there was a wise minister named Ji Liang, a man who could see far. There was also another minister named Shaoxi, good at flattery and sweet words, but not necessarily upright in his heart. The ruler of Sui usually liked Shaoxi more, because Shaoxi's talk was pleasant and easy to listen to. When the true envoy arrived, the ruler of Sui called both Ji Liang and Shaoxi in to discuss together. The ruler of Sui said, "Chu has more troops and more land than we do, and now they suddenly come asking for peace. What do you think this means?" Ji Liang spoke very directly. "Chu is much stronger than Sui. A strong state coming to ask for peace never does it out of real fear. They must have something else in mind. On the surface, we can agree and show them a friendly face, but inside the city, our walls, defenses, grain stores, and weapons must all be put in order. We cannot drop our guard just because they say they want peace." Shaoxi, on the other hand, thought more simply and also wanted to show off. He volunteered, "Since the Chu envoy has come, let me take our treaty and go to the Chu camp to talk with them. I can also take a look at their camp and see what things really look like." The ruler of Sui felt that sounded reasonable and sent Shaoxi off to Xiashidi to meet the Chu army. On the Chu side, when Dou Bobi heard Sui was sending Xiaoxi, he said to Zhang Tong, "I've heard that this Xiaoxi is a petty man who gained favor only by flattery. A man like that, when he comes as envoy, will definitely try to measure our strength, so we should put on a show for him." Zhang Tong asked, "What kind of show?" Dou Bobi said, "Hide all our real elite soldiers, keep them resting behind the camp where he won't see them. Then pick out the old soldiers, the wounded, and the weak, and place them at the gate and in the front lines where he will pass. Let him see them. Don't polish the armor and weapons bright. Leave them looking worn, the way they are after long use. That way, when he goes back, he will report that the Chu army is weak, and they will look down on us once they become arrogant and relaxed. Think they can bully us whenever they want. We will have an easy time dealing with them." Later, Zhang Tong nodded and agreed. When Xiaoxi arrived at the Shu camp, he looked around and saw exactly what Chu wanted him to see. Rusty armor, old weapons, and many soldiers who were clearly older, limping, or still bearing unhealed wounds. He did not see any of the young, strong, main forces. Xiaoxi made up his mind right then. Chu was only strong on the outside, weak inside. When he faced Zhang Tong, he naturally felt he was the one standing on higher ground. Zhang Tong said to him, "Our state of Chu has suffered several years of bad harvests. Food is short, and our people are on the edge of hunger. We also fear that some of the nearby small states might take this chance to bully us, so we would like to form a brotherly alliance with Sui and help each other." Xiaoxi heard this and felt even more sure Chu was begging us. He answered proudly, "You do not need to worry. Most of the small states east of the Han River listen to our Sui with just one word from us. They would not dare make trouble." So the two sides made a treaty on the surface. It looked like Chu had come to beg for peace, and Sui had the upper hand. Xiaoxi returned home and reported to the ruler of Sui that the Chu troops were weak and tired, and boasted about how confident he had been in the Chu camp. In the end, he put forward a bold idea. "They have just allied with us and then immediately withdrawn their army. That shows they are afraid of us. Now that they have pulled back and have a long way to march, they surely think we won't chase. Please give me a force of troops so I can go after the Chu army, even if I don't capture them all. If I can destroy half their men, it will be enough to make Chu lose face and bow their heads from now on." The ruler of Sui listened and felt Xiaoxi's words sounded quite reasonable. He began to waver and think that striking them once, while it's easy, might not be a bad deal. Just then, Ji Liang heard about it and rushed in. Very serious. "You must not do this." The ruler of Sui asked, "Why?" "Explain in detail," Ji Liang said. "From the time of Chu, rulers, Ruao, and Fen Mao, they have been working hard, step by step, to expand and take control over the Jiang and Han River region. This has not just been 1 or 2 years of work. Now Shang Tong has killed his nephew and seized the throne after taking power. He is even more forceful and aggressive than the rulers before him. His coming to ask for peace is not because he fears us, it's because he has larger plans. Now, as he withdraws his army, he deliberately places old and weak soldiers at the front for us to see. He wants to tempt us into underestimating him, to make us overconfident and chase after him. Once we leave our borders and give chase, we may be walking straight into a trap he has already prepared. If we really send troops to go after Chu now, there is a very good chance we will fall for his plan." The ruler of Sui listened, but still hesitated. According to custom at the time, he ordered a divination. The result came back not favorable. At that, his heart tightened, and he finally decided to follow Ji Liang's advice. He gave up the idea of chasing Chu and chose to stay quietly within his own borders and guard his own lands instead. When Zhang Tong later heard that it was Ji Liang who had stopped the pursuit, he said to Dou Bobi, "This Ji Liang of Sui is no ordinary man. He helped Sui avoid our first move and saved them from a disaster." Dou Bobi then offered another plan. "Since Sui did not chase us this time, they have dodged one blow in our next step. We can use a different method to pressure them. You can send word to all of the small states east of the Han River, inviting them to gather at a place called Shenlu. In name, it will be a meeting of lords to talk peace and discuss affairs in reality. It is to see who will follow your lead. If Sui sends a representative, it means they acknowledge you as their leader. If Sui refuses to come, we can say they have betrayed the alliance and use that as a public excuse to send troops. We will then have the perfect justification to punish them." This idea fit Zhang Tong's thinking perfectly. He sent envoys to each of the eastern states, saying, "On the first day of the first summer month, everyone is to meet at Shenlu. We will sit together and discuss how we will deal with one another in the future. On the surface, it looked like a normal meeting of vassal states, but in fact, Zhou had already set the game board. He was about to use this gathering as his stage to push the figure of the King of Chu out into the open, in front of all the other lords. After Zheng Yuangong defeated King Huan of Zhou, he knew very clearly in his heart who had really held the line in that battle. The one who carried the whole formation was the central commander, Prince Yuan. The one who grabbed the most exciting moment on the battlefield was Zhu Dan, the man who shot that arrow into King Huan's shoulder. After the war, when they returned to Zhengwang, Guang held a big round of rewards. He was very pleased with Prince Yuan on the court. In front of all the ministers, he praised him openly. This victory, and the fact that the Son of Heaven will not dare bully us so easily again, is a great merit of Prince Yuan. As he spoke, he not only wrote Prince Yuan's name at the very top of the merit register, he also granted him a whole city called Li. He ordered Prince Yuan to live in Li City. In name he was guarding the city. But in reality, the treatment was almost like that of a small ruler. He had his own territory, his own troops, his own household officers. The other generals and ministers also each received rewards. Some got land, some got wealth, some got treasures. Everyone had a share. For a few days, the court was buzzing with joy. Whoever met Zhuanggong would say, "Our Lord really knows how to remember and reward service." Only one man felt worse and worse the longer it went on. That was Zhu Dan. You remember what Zhu Dan did in battle? He saw that man under the royal canopy.com and directing the troops, and guessed that must be King Huan. He drew his bow, loosed his arrow, and hit the king's left shoulder right on target. The Son of Heaven was wounded on the spot and, terrified, ordered a retreat. At that moment, Zhu Dan was secretly proud. That shot was a world-shaking arrow. Back in Xing, when he saw others being rewarded, at first he could still hold it in. But when the main round of rewards wrapped up and he checked the list and found no mention of his name, the fire in his chest could not be pushed down anymore. One day, he finally went up to the court himself in front of all the ministers. He spoke straight to Zhuanggong. "My lord, in this campaign I followed you through life and death, especially in the battle at Zug. It was my arrow that pierced King Huan's shoulder and forced him to retreat in panic. Now you have written down the merits of other ministers and granted them land and cities. Why is there not one word recorded for me?" "I have come to ask for an explanation." Zhuanggong looked at him. His tone was not harsh, but his words were very direct. "If I take the act of wounding the Son of Heaven and write it down as a merit for all to see, what will people say about me? The King of Zhou has already suffered defeat and lost face. If I then put in the official record that so-and-so shot the Son of Heaven, that is the same as making him a joke in front of every lord under heaven. I cannot do that. Your arrow on the battlefield did help, but in terms of principle and status, it was an act of attacking your superior. It was something that should not have happened. How can I openly record it as a merit?" After hearing this, Zhu Dan felt as if a huge breath was stuck in his chest, neither going up nor going down. He did not dare to talk back on the spot, but in his heart he felt he had suffered a huge injustice. "When we were fighting, you never said, 'Do not shoot at the king,' now that the war is won. You say you cannot acknowledge the merits, so what does my life count for?" The anger in Zhu Dan's heart stayed there and slowly turned into illness. A poisonous sore grew on his back and got worse day by day. He lay in bed and could think of nothing but that arrow, nothing but that sentence. "I cannot record this merit." Anger, grievance, frustration, all piled together, the sore went deeper and deeper in the end. Still holding that resentment, he died. When Yuangong later heard that Zhu Dan had died of illness, he was not completely unmoved. In private, he sighed and said, "On the battlefield, he was a brave man, only a bit too straightforward in temper." He did not set up any great public stele for Zhu Dan, but he quietly ordered money and cloth to be sent to his family and arranged for his household to be cared for. He also gave the order, "Bury him with the rights of a high minister." It was a late, half-hidden kind of comfort. After this, the official historian wrote a comment in the records, roughly meaning, if the ministers of a state all learn that offending the Lord can also be written down as merit, then the ruler is in danger. Zhu Dan's arrow, in principle, should not have been shot. Zhuanggong was not wrong to refuse to record it as a merit. He only fell a little short in how he handled and soothed his men. time passed quickly again. The battle against King Huan had been around the 8th or 9th year of his reign, by the 19th year of King Huan of Zhou. In the summer, Zhang Zhuanggong himself fell ill. Lying on his bed, feeling that his own days were numbered, he called for his most trusted chancellor, Zhou, to come to his bedside. He wanted to discuss one major question: who should inherit the throne? Zhuanggong said to Zhou, "In my life, I have had 11 sons in total by now. Those who have grown to adulthood are only a few. By rule, he, the heir apparent, is my legitimate eldest son. Born of my principal wife, he has been crown prince for many years and has long been treated as my successor, and as you know, he has also earned military merit. Everyone has seen that with their own eyes." Then, his tone shifted, and he went on. "But you also know, besides he, the sons too, Wen and Di, each have their own kind of luck and ability. The physiognomists all say that these three have the face and bearing of noble men." He paused, and finally raised the real issue. "Of these three, two seems to have more talent and fortune than the other. Two of the face readers also say that when An Yi may not live a smooth long life and might not die well, only about two. They say his fate is hard and strong, and that he is destined for big things." Zhuanggong sighed and revealed his true thought. "So I have kept wondering in my heart whether I should pass the throne to two instead. What do you think?" Zhou was an old chancellor. He knew exactly which lines he could not simply agree to. He answered very solemnly, "My lord, the heir apparent. He is born of your main wife. He is the legitimate eldest son by ritual law and proper order. He is the rightful heir to the throne. From childhood to now, he has acted as crown prince, combining both civil and military skills at home and abroad. He has achieved real service. The common people, the other lords, and the ministers here in Xin all already recognize him in their hearts as the future ruler. In these years, he has, step by step, firmly taken his place in people's minds as the next lord of Zhangizhou." Paused, then spoke further. "If at this moment you abolish the legitimate eldest son and replace him with a younger son of a concubine, then in terms of ritual, in terms of hearts and minds, and in terms of the future stability of the state, this is extremely dangerous. I do not dare to agree to such a change." Zhuanggong listened and knew Zhou was speaking reason, but his judgment of his sons still made him uneasy. He frowned and said, "Tu is not the kind of man who will be content to sit quietly as someone else's subject with bones like his. He will never willingly stay beneath another. If I insist on giving the throne to he, then when I am gone and only the brothers remain in the world, what do you think Tu will do? I fear that Zhen will never know peace again because of struggles between brothers." He thought for a moment and then suggested a compromise. "If we must enthrone he, then there is only one way. We must send Tu away. Out of Zhang, let him go to his grandmother's side and live in Song. Once he is away from Zhang, it will be harder for him to stir up trouble here." Zhou no longer tried to block him. Instead, he followed along with this reality and said, "Only a father can truly understand his sons. Since you have already seen their natures clearly and made your judgment, then let us do as you say." When Zhuanggong heard this, he let out a long, heavy sigh and said, "From this day on, Zhen will have no peace." On the surface, it sounded like a stray sigh, but in fact, it was his own feeling about the pattern he had set in his lifetime. A legitimate eldest son on the throne, a powerful younger son in exile, a knot of resentment between brothers that had never been untied. Sooner or later, there would be a storm. After that conversation, Zhuanggong sent Prince Tu away to Song, where he settled down as a guest. Not long after, in the 5th month, Zhang Zhuanggong's illness worsened, and he passed away. The heir apparent, he formally inherited the throne. He is known to history as Duke Xiao of Zhen. Duke Xiao had just taken the seat and to steady relations with other states. He followed the custom of the time and sent ministers out to various courts to pay visits and convey his greetings. It was a kind of diplomatic tour for a new ruler. Zhou was given charge of the mission to Song. On the surface, he was there to carry Zheng's respects at the same time. Under Duke Zhao's orders, he was also to quietly observe Prince Tu's situation in Song, to see if Tu's had any intention of returning and trying to take the throne. To tell what happened next, we need to first make clear what life was like for Prince Tu in Song. Prince Tu's mother was named Yang Ji, a daughter from the great young clan of Song. When she first married into Zhen, she gave birth to Prince Tu and enjoyed great favor from Zhuanggong back in Song. The Yang family already had many relatives in office, and in power, her marriage was not just a personal match. It was also a hidden link between the two states. When Tu was sent to Song, on one level it was taking refuge, but he knew perfectly well it also meant being sent away. Removed from the line of succession, he missed his mother Yang Ji, and at the same time he felt deeply wronged. He believed he had real talent and strong fate, yet he had been pushed out beyond the borders. How could he truly accept that? So in his days in Song, he often gathered with members of the Yang clan to discuss one question. Do I still have a chance to return to Xing? Is there a way to regain the position that should have been mine? The Yang family, moved by both kinship and the political value of a Zheng prince, passed his thoughts in full to Duke Huan of Song. Duke Huan thought it over. If I help Prince to return to Zhang and set him up as ruler, Zhang will owe Song a great debt. We will then have a hand inside Zhang's court that would serve two purposes at once, he said openly. Good for this matter. We can help him think of a way. At just this time, Zhang sent Zhou on his visit to Song. Duke Huan's mind lit up. Here comes the opportunity. He first set up the stage of warm reception, planning to meet Zhou formally in the Great Hall, but before that, he quietly ordered armored soldiers to gather behind the hall, hiding them behind screens and pillars, waiting for his signal. When Zhou arrived at the palace gate, went into the Great Hall and bowed before Duke Huan of Song, all the formal greetings were done just as they were about to sit down and talk. Duke Huan suddenly waved his hand. The hidden armored men rushed out at once. They moved fast and with practice, pressing Zhou to the floor and tying him tightly with ropes on the spot. Zhou was shocked and could not help but shout, "My lord of Song, our ruler in Zheng sent me to build friendly ties with your state and show our goodwill. I have not robbed anyone on the road, nor stirred up trouble here in your city. I entered your hall, bowed according to ritual, and before we have even spoken one sentence, you suddenly seize me. Tell me, what crime have I committed?" Duke Huan did not answer this question head-on. He simply said coldly, "Take him to the armory and lock him there. The rest we will deal with later." So that same day, Zhou was dragged away and thrown into the palace armory. Weapons were racked on all four sides, and the entrance was lined with armed guards. The watch was very tight. Zhou lay there, bound, shaken, and afraid, unable for the moment to guess what Duke Huan really meant to do. Late that night, the door of the armory creaked open. Someone came in, carrying a lamp. It was none other than Song's Grand Chancellor, Huadu. Huadu held a wine jug in one hand and a cup in the other. He looked, on the surface, as if he had come to comfort an old colleague. He sat down, poured a cup for Zhou, and spoke in a seemingly gentle tone. "Minister Ji, do not be afraid. I am here to calm your nerves." Zhou stared at him and asked, "Our lord in Zheng sent me with full sincerity to form friendship with your state. All along the road I have acted according to ritual. Why is it that the moment I arrive, your ruler suddenly changes his attitude like this? Is it my lord who has offended your court? Or have I, as his envoy, spoken out of line? You can tell me plainly." Huadu smiled a little and said, "It is neither. Your lord has not slighted us, and you have done nothing wrong. Only, there is one matter in which you have no choice but to help." Then he turned the topic and brought up Prince Tu. "Prince Tu comes from your Xing, and his mother is Yang Ji. Everybody knows this now. He has been sent here to live in our Song. Our lord looks at him and feels sympathy. And to be honest, this heir of yours, Xiaogong, has a nature that is too soft and a courage that is too small. He does not look like a man who can really hold a state steady." Huadu then laid out his offer. "If you are willing to help, then when you go back to Zhen, you will depose Duke Xiao and set up Prince Tu as ruler instead. Our Duke of Song will be very pleased if this succeeds. Song will gladly share marriage ties with Zhang for generations to come. And you, Zhou, will be the first man of merit in this whole affair. Your position will not be lower than it is now. It may even be higher." Zhou's face sank. He knew very clearly that as Chancellor of Zhang, his duty was to help his lord make decisions for the state. Now these people were asking him to overthrow the very ruler he supported with his own hands. This was not negotiation. It was coercion. He spoke in a low, steady voice. "Our present ruler was named Crown Prince by our former lord. While he was still alive, his coming to the throne now is exactly in line with our late lord's will and in line with ritual. If I, a subject, go back and remove my own lord and put someone else on the throne, then all the other lords will come asking for justice. Who will still treat Zhang as a proper state? Who will still treat me as a proper minister? Seeing he would not give in, Huadu changed his tone. Do not press yourself so hard with those grand principles, your late lord. Gong doted on Yangji. In his day when the mother is favored, the son is naturally noble. Prince Tu's status is in no way beneath that of Zhao Gong. You can see it as fulfilling your late lord's hidden wish. Then he leaned closer and whispered a very heavy sentence in Jizu's ear. Besides, history is full of men who seized thrones and killed their rulers. Which state has not seen it? As long as you grow bigger and stronger in the end, who dares seriously say you are guilty? At most, people gossip for a few years, and then they fall silent. He even brought up a living example. To be frank with you, our own ruler of Song, sitting on his throne today, did he not go through the same pattern of first abolish, then enthrone? Did we not come through that? Who now dare stand in front of him and say the words, murdering one's lord? Jizu heard all this and furrowed his brow even tighter. He refused to respond. Seeing that he was still holding out, Huadu dropped his smile completely and moved on to threats. Do not imagine that you have many choices. If you absolutely refuse today, our Lord of Song will simply use another method. He has already decided to send Nangong Changwan as general, leading 600 war chariots, to personally escort Prince to Baekdu Zhang. When that army arrives at your borders with the banner of quelling Zhang's internal disorder, they will act directly, and the very first thing they will do is kill a man to dedicate at the foot of the war flag. Then he made it completely clear. The head used for that sacrifice will be yours. In other words, I came here tonight to drink with you, but it may also be the last time we ever meet. Hearing this naked threat, Jizu felt a cold wave in his heart. It was not that he was incapable of dying once in a hard, loyal way, but what he saw now was not only his own life, he saw the whole situation of Zan. If he died here, the army of Song would openly escort Prince Tuvek, and a civil war in Zhang would break out once Zhang was torn by internal strife. The other lords around them would all be watching for their chance. Who would then stabilize the situation? Could Duke Xiao really hold the throne? All these questions pressed down on him at the same time. Under such pressure on every side, Jizu finally gave way in a very low voice. He said, "Very well, I agree. When I return, I will find a way to set up Prince Tu." Huadu still did not trust him. He demanded that Jizu swear an oath. Jizu, with no road left to retreat, raised his head and spoke the oath aloud. "If in future I do not make Prince to ruler, then may the spirits themselves strike down the one who breaks this vow." With that oath, he handed his life to the gods and, more practically, to the hard reality in front of him. Later, the historian wrote a line of judgment, roughly like this: if a truly loyal minister, at such a moment, could rather stake his life and refuse to bow to threats, then the men of Song might not have dared to treat Zhang so lightly. Jizu, under this level of pressure, still lowered his head and swore, in the end, it was because he was afraid. When Huadu saw that he had finally agreed, he went out of the armory and hurried back to report to Duke Huan of Song that same night. Jizu has nodded. He has agreed. The very next morning, Duke Chuang of Song sent for Prince Tu again. This time, he did not receive him in the main audience hall, but in a small inner room with a thick wooden door and a heavy bar across it. Prince Tu stepped inside. The room was empty, except for Duke Chuang of Song. Sitting there alone, his face looked as if something was weighing on his mind, and at the same time as if he had already made up his mind about something major. He waved his hand, had the door shut tightly, then said to Prince Tu, "I have already spoken with your mother's family. The Yonka and I have agreed to find a way to send you back to Zen." He paused here, then lowered his voice and said the key line. "But you also need to know this, Zheng already has a new ruler. This new ruler has secretly written to me in that letter. He says very clearly, 'If you kill Prince Tu for us, we are willing to give you 3 cities as thanks.'" Duke Zhuang sighed and went on, "Because you are your father's son, and because of your mother, Yongji, I have not had the heart to kill you, so I am telling you this in secret. First, you need to understand where you stand." This speech was both a warning and open pressure. "You are in my hands now. Your life already has a price. 3 walled cities. I am not killing you at this moment. So how you choose to stand from now on is up to you." On the 3rd day, Prince Tu was summoned to the palace again. He had thought about all this for a full day and night. He knew that this road was either not to be walked at all, or, once he set foot on it, he would have to go all the way to the end. So as soon as he saw Duke Huan, he dropped to his knees, touched his forehead to the floor, and said solemnly, "I suffered misfortune and was driven out of my own state. I had no choice but to flee to Song from the moment I crossed into your lands. My life no longer truly belongs to me. It has been fully placed in your hands. Now, you not only spare me, you are also willing to help me find a way back to Zen, back to my ancestors' temple, so I can stand once more before their spirit tablets and bow my head to them. As long as this can happen, no matter what you ask for later, as long as it is in my power to give, I will give it those 3 cities. You mentioned mean nothing to me." These words were soft in tone but heavy in meaning. "I know I am completely your man now. As long as you send me back and I can take the throne, I accept whatever payment you want in land and wealth." On the 4th day, Duke Huan felt the time was right and laid all his cards on the table. He said, "I locked your Chancellor Zhou in our armory for your sake. Without him, this great matter cannot be done today. I have called you all here so the few of you can sit in one room, put all the words on the table, and swear to them." So he ordered Zhou to be brought from the armory. He also summoned members of the Yang clan, Prince Tu's mother's family. In that closed room, the key people were 4, Duke Huan of Song, Prince Tu Zhou, and a representative of the Yang clan. Outside, armed guards stood by, inside and outside. The air was tight with tension. Duke Duang explained the whole plan of deposing He and setting up Tu clearly in front of everyone. The current ruler of Zen is Duke Zhou. Song is willing to send troops to escort Prince Tu back to Zen. Zhu will handle the internal maneuvering in Zen, working on the ministers. The Yang clan will support from the side as the external kin network. After laying this out, he personally presided over the blood oath. According to the ritual of the time, they killed an animal, let its blood drip into a cup, and each man took a sip. This was called drinking blood to seal the oath. Duke Zhuang himself acted as master of the ceremony, and witness Grand Chancellor Hua Du stood aside as another witness. Then, Duke Zhuang added an extra, very practical layer. He demanded that Prince to make a written pledge, promising that once he had secured the throne of Xing, he would give Song long-term returns. The concrete conditions were, first, besides the 3 cities already mentioned, he must give Song 100 pairs of white jade discs. Here, 1 pair means 2 discs, so that is 200 fine white jades. Second, he must give 10,000 yi of gold. A yi was an ancient unit of weight. 10,000 yi was an enormous amount of gold. Third, every single year, Zhang must deliver 30,000 zhang of grain to Song as a never-ending yearly gift. A zhang was a unit used for grain. 30,000 zhang meant the stores of many granaries. All of this was written into the oath at the end. Zhou signed as witness. The meaning could not be clearer. Song will commit troops to put you on the throne afterward. Zhang must pay Song in land, jade, gold, and grain, year after year. In Prince Tu's mind, there was only one thought at that moment. Get back to Xing. Get my position back. No matter how harsh the terms were, he had no room left to think too much. He simply nodded again and again and said, "I agree to all of it." Duke Huan then put forward his final condition. "Prince Tu, when you return to Xing and become ruler, all major affairs of the court and all command over the army and the state must be handed to Zhou. Let us say this clearly here in advance." Prince Tu agreed in one breath. "When I return, all internal and external affairs, great and small, will follow Zhu's lead." In that moment, the future power structure of Zhang was fixed in the presence of everyone. On the surface, Prince Tu would be king in reality. Zhu would hold the reins of government through him. Song and the Yang clan would have their hands on the very center of Zhang's power. The matter still did not end there. Duke Huan raised one more proposal to tie them together by marriage. He had heard that Zhu had a daughter, so he said to him, "I would like your daughter to marry Yang Zhu, son of the Yang clan. That way, your Ji family and the Yong family will truly be tied together in one boat." He immediately sent people to arrange the marriage and sent Yang Zhu back to Zhang along with them. Outwardly, Yang Zhu was escorting the bride. In reality, he was being planted in Xing as a long-term foothold. When Yang Zhu returned to Xing, Duke Juang, on the Song side, also granted him the rank of Grand Duke, and gave that as a political gift to Zhou. Zhou understood all too well what this chain of arrangements meant. He had been firmly tied to Song. He no longer dared say no. All he could do was agree, one condition at a time. The alliance was sealed, the marriage link set up. The next step was action. Prince Tu, Song, and Yongju took off their noble clothes and changed into the rough cloth coats of commoners. They tied on plain belts and dressed themselves like traveling merchants. On the surface, they were just two men driving a cart of goods. In truth, what that cart was carrying was the hopes of their whole families. They drove their cart and quietly followed behind Zhu's carriage. The group left Song and headed towards Zan. On the first day of the 9th month, they finally crossed into Zhang territory. Prince Tu and Yongju slipped into Zhu's compound and hid there, waiting for the right moment. When Zhu reached Zin, he first pretended to fall seriously ill and refused to come to court. Duke Zhou, he noticed that his chancellor had not appeared for several days. Uneasy, he ordered the ministers to visit Zhu's home in turns to ask after his health. When the ministers arrived, they were led straight into a large inner room. Zhu had already arranged everything hidden in the wall space. Behind that inner room were 100 armored soldiers, fully armed. At a word or a clap from Zhu, they could rush through hidden doors and seize every minister in that room. The ministers entered and, seeing Zhu himself, were startled. He did not look like a man on the edge of death. He was neatly dressed, his head dressed straight, his face ruddy, his voice loud. Sitting there, he looked every bit like a man in full strength. One of the ministers could not help asking, "Chancellor, you don't look ill at all. Why have you stayed away from court for so many days?" Zhu sighed and said, "It is not I who am sick. It is this state of ours that is sick." The ministers looked at one another, not sure what he meant. Zhu went on, "When our late lord was alive, he showed great favor to Prince Tu. Song has long known this. Now Zhang has a new ruler, but Song does not accept him. They have already decided to send Nangong Changwan as general, leading 600 war chariots, to escort Prince Tu back to Zhang and raise him up." Here, he deliberately lowered his voice. "If the troops of Song press down on our borders and Prince Tu comes back under the banner of the late lord's beloved son, then it becomes a family matter of Zin, which even the Son of Heaven finds hard to judge. Others will find it even easier to step in. If Zin is smashed into a pot of porridge, which one of you can bear this outcome?" The ministers fell silent. Some wanted to argue, but then they thought of Song's forces, and of how Song had fought. Before their courage shrank, they could not bring themselves to shout no. Seeing that no one spoke, Zhu made it even plainer. "If we want Song to pull its troops back, there is only one road. We must have the present ruler, Duke Zhou. He give up the throne, and we must set up Prince Tu as new ruler to satisfy Song. Prince Tu is in my house at this very moment. Now then, will you move with the trend, or wait for Song's army to come battering at your gates? Each of you must state your position." For a moment, the room was very quiet. Then one man stepped forward. Gao Qumi. Gao Qumi walked up a few paces, sword in hand, and said, "When he blocked our late lord from making me chief minister, I kept that in my heart. Today, the chancellor has spoken very clearly. Setting up Prince Tu now is to save Zhang from a great disaster. This benefits the state, and it does not harm me personally. I am willing to be the first to support this. I ask the chancellor to bring out the new ruler." When the other ministers heard Gao Qiami's stance and thought of the muffled clatter of weapons behind the walls, their hearts turned cold. It was obvious now that Zhu and Gao Qiami had long planned this together. There were soldiers outside the walls and steel close at hand. Whoever said no here might not walk out alive. Thinking of this, and feeling fear, they had no choice but to nod one by one and say things like, "The state must come first, and we must preserve the altars of our ancestors," and declare themselves willing to welcome the new ruler. When Zhu saw that the mood had been locked in, he gave the order for Prince Tu to be brought out from the back rooms. Prince Tu now wore formal robes. He walked to the central seat in the hall. Zhu and Zhao Qimi stepped forward together, knelt, and bowed their heads to the floor as subjects. The other ministers, faced with this scene, could only follow. They all fell to their knees and performed the obeisance of ministers to Prince Tu. In that moment, the direction of Zhang's court had been completely rewritten. Zhu had long prepared a formal petition on it. He had already written the names and offices of the ministers. All that was missing was their agreement. Now that everyone had taken their stand, he sealed the petition and sent it into the palace for Duke Zhou. The petition said very bluntly, roughly this: Song has now brought heavy troops to our borders and has decided to install Prince Tu as the new ruler of Zhen. We, your ministers, are too weak to resist. We truly have no way to continue serving you as our lord. Besides this public petition, Zhou wrote another secret letter addressed only to Duke Xiaohe. In that secret letter, he poured out his guilt and helplessness. The meaning was roughly, the reason you sit on the throne today is, strictly speaking, not what our late lord originally intended. It is because I argued strongly in court that you were made crown prince and then ruler. Now I have been seized in Song and locked in the armory, threatened with life and death, forced to swear I would depose you and set up Prince Tu. At that moment, I thought to myself, even if I died there in Song, they could still send Prince Tu back with troops. Zheng would still fall into chaos. My death alone could not save the situation. Now the army of Song is about to reach our city. The ministers, afraid of Song's strength, have turned one after another to Prince Tu's side. Things have already come to this point. All I can do is drag myself to the end of this affair. As for me personally, in this life, I have failed you. The only thing I can still offer is this advice. It would be better for you to give up the throne for now and seek a place to hide and endure. If there is a chance in future, I will surely look for a way to bring you back. At the end of the letter, Zhou added one heavy line as an oath. If I ever go against what I have written here today, let me meet a disaster as impossible as the sun suddenly rising in the middle of the night. In other words, if I break this word, may I die in a way that goes against all normal sense. When Duke Xiao received the petition and the secret letter, he knew very clearly that he was completely isolated. The chancellor had turned to Prince. Two of the ministers were in his hands. Song stood outside, ready to move. He himself might still be ruler in name, but he would only be sitting on an empty shell. He dragged himself back to his inner rooms, tears streaming down his face. He saw his wife, Lady Gui, one last time, and, with tears in his eyes, said a few words of farewell. Then he quietly packed a few personal things, took a small group of loyal followers, slipped out by a side path, and fled Zhen, heading to Wei to take refuge. From that moment on, the title Duke Xiao of Xin existed only in the records inside Xin's capital. There was a new ruler on the throne, Duke Li of Xin. Zhou now formally called himself servant of Duke Li. From then on, all major policies, all military campaigns, all foreign dealings of Zheng were in Zhou's hands. Duke Li was ruler in name, but often he did little more than nod and sign. Zhou formally married his daughter to Yang Zhu of the Yang clan, and after the wedding she was called Lady Yang Ji. Through this marriage, the Ji family and the Yang family became in-laws. The center of power, in Zhen ruler, chancellor, and the external kin network closed into a tight circle. Duke Li also kept his previous promise and gave Yang Zhu the position of grandee. The Yang clan was already Duke Li's mother's family. Now they were also his in-laws, and they shared memories of those days living as exiles in Song because of this. Duke Li trusted and favored Yang Zhu no less than he relied on Zhou. When the new ruler took the throne, the common people were uneasy at first. They talked about it a lot. But as time went on, they saw that taxes were still paid, fields were still planted, and for the moment, there was no war. Life went on. Slowly, they got used to it. For most ordinary people, as long as they can keep living, a change of ruler does not stay on their lips every day. Only two men could not let it go. These two were Prince Wen and Prince Yi. They too were sons of Zhuanggang, and they had never truly given up hope of inheriting the throne. Now they saw Duke Zhao driven out and Duke Li seated in his place. They did not accept Zhao, and they did not accept Li. Their hearts were full of resentment. They were also afraid that one day Duke Li would settle accounts with them, so each of them made his own escape plan. Not long after, Prince Wen quietly left Zheng with his own followers and fled to Kai. Prince Yi escaped to Chen. On the surface, Xing looked like a new ruler on the throne, and the calm court in reality. Several lines of hidden fire had been laid down outside the state. On the Song side, when Duke Shuang heard that Prince Tu had successfully taken the throne and secured his position, he was, of course, delighted. He sent envoys with gifts to Xing to congratulate Duke Li, and at the same time began to think through the next step. How those cities, the white jade, the gold, and the grain would be collected from Zhen, one part after another. The history books say it was exactly this round of oaths and returning a prince home that planted the seeds for a new war between Song and Xin. As for how that later war was stirred up, that belongs to the next chapter of the story. Chinese culture mini lesson. How did ancient people light the night? If I suddenly ask you right now, how did people in ancient China light their homes at night? Most people's first reaction is probably candles, of course. Then, right after that, a second thought, wait, no, people were poor back then. Where would they get candles? Weren't candles super expensive? And you'd be right, candles were expensive. How expensive? We'll get to that in a bit. Today, we're going to walk through how people in ancient times went from simple open fires to oil lamps, to candles, and then to all kinds of strange and clever lamps. Behind these tools, there is not only everyday wisdom, but also a lot of small details you would never expect. My goal is that, after listening to this, you can really see the picture in your mind. In a world without electricity, how did people push back the darkness, little by little, so that life could go on? You can imagine this. The sky outside is completely dark. Everything is so quiet, you can hear your own breathing. In that kind of world, lighting a single lamp means lighting up an entire home. Let's start from the very beginning. Fire pits. The first nightlight. A long time ago, the first way people lit up the night was very simple. The fire pit. A fire pit was basically a shallow hole dug in the middle of the house, or a circle of stones on the ground where you piled up firewood and kept it burning. Picture that scene. It's late at night. The whole family is sitting around the fire. The flames are jumping up and down, throwing light onto the beams overhead. Shadows on the walls stretch and shrink as the fire flickers. A child is lying on the floor, playing with stones. The adults are warming their hands. There is a pot of porridge hanging over the fire. The air is full of that dry, good smell of burning wood. That was the oldest and warmest version of nighttime for human beings. The fire pit gave light, gave warmth, and kept wild animals away. In early societies, it was basically the heart of the home. But fire pits also had plenty of problems. For example, they didn't give off much light. If the room was a bit bigger, the corners were still completely dark. In summer, the heat was unbearable. The stronger the fire, the more uncomfortable it got. And of course, fire pits were very likely to start fires. In crowded cities, where houses were packed together, one spark flying out could easily burn down an entire block. So as society developed, people started looking for lighting tools that were safer, more economical, and easier to move around. That's when oil lamps came on stage. Oil lamps. A huge step forward. Oil lamps were a major step forward in everyday life. They appeared as early as the Shang and Zhou dynasties, and by the Han dynasty, they were already very common. The basic idea of an oil lamp is simple. There is a wick on top and oil at the bottom. The wick soaks up the oil and then burns at the tip, giving off light. Sounds easy enough, right? But now think about this. What kind of oil did people actually use? The earliest lamp oils were mainly of two types, plant oil and animal fat. Among plant oils, sesame oil was the best. It burned clean and didn't produce much smoke, but it was expensive. Ordinary people could not afford to burn sesame oil all night. So what did most people use? The answer is tung oil, pressed from the fruit of the tung tree. Tung oil can be burned, but once you light it, it produces thick, sticky black smoke. The smoke clings to everything, the walls, the furniture, the clothes. If you sat near the lamp, nothing around you could escape it. Sima Qian wrote a vivid line in Records of the Grand Historian about this. The smoke blackened objects and turned painted images dark. You can picture it very clearly. A scholar in ancient times sits at his desk reading. The lamp beside him is dim and smoky. He recites lines as he reads, while breathing in lamp smoke the whole time. By the time he finishes one scroll, his nostrils are black. You can almost smell that heavy, greasy smoke just by imagining it. There was also a more unusual kind of oil lamp, the fish oil lamp. To get fish oil, people hunted and processed large amounts of fish fat, sometimes even whales. In Europe, people hunted whales for lamp oil in some regions of ancient China. Fish oil was also used for lighting. When fish oil burned, the light was bright, but the smell was incredibly fishy. The room would be filled with a mixture of brightness and stench. You might wrinkle your nose just thinking about it. But that was the real nighttime experience for many people back then. And then there was a very disturbing type of lamp oil in old records: human fat. Yes, you heard that right. Some historical sources say that in the Eastern Jin dynasty, when a child died accidentally, people would sometimes extract the fatty tissue from the eyelids and use it as lamp oil. It was said that the lamp could burn for 3 days and 3 nights. This is where the later phrase, lighting the heaven lamp in ghost stories, comes from. Of course, this kind of thing was extremely rare. It was an extreme case at the edge of recorded history. But even so, it shows you just how much people longed for light in an age of darkness. In a world without electricity, being able to light even one lamp was a kind of power. Clever lamp designs, from smoke to green tack. Now that we've talked about lamp oil, let's look at the lamps themselves. In the Han Dynasty, there was a very famous lamp called the ever-faithful palace lamp, Changxin Palace lamp. You may have seen it in a museum. A kneeling palace made of bronze, holding up a lamp in her hands. This lamp is extremely sophisticated. The lampshade can be opened from either side, so you can adjust the brightness. The maid's right arm is raised, and inside her arm is a hollow tube. When the lamp burns and produces smoke, the smoke travels through this tube into the maid's body and is trapped inside. So more than 2,000 years ago, people already made a kind of environmentally friendly lamp. Imagine the Han Imperial Palace at night. A bronze, maid-shaped lamp gives off soft light. The smoke does not spread into the room but disappears into the lamp's body. You can feel how refined this is. The people of that time cared about light and about comfort, no less than we do now. By the Tang Dynasty, ceramic lamps became common. They came in all kinds of shapes, and almost every household could afford one. One typical type was the multi-tube lamp. The lamp head had 5 thin tubes. Each tube could hold a wick. If you need a brighter light, you lit several wicks at once. If you wanted it dimmer, you lit just one. Imagine a normal evening in Thames times. Dinner is over. The mother is weaving. The children are grinding ink. On the table, there is a multi-tube lamp, burning steadily, with several golden little flames like open flower buds. There were also timing lamps. The inside of the lamp oil container had marked levels. By watching the oil level drop, you could tell how long the lamp had left to burn. With a lamp like that, you no longer had to worry that your light would suddenly go out halfway through your reading. If you think about it, these ancient lamps are not so different from our modern desk lamps, night lights, or mood lights. The materials are different, the times are different, but the human needs are exactly the same. Candles, literally burning money. Now let's come back to candles. In ancient China, candles were crazy expensive. There were 2 main kinds of wax, yellow wax and white wax. Yellow wax came from beeswax. White wax came from wax insects. White wax was cleaner, burned more evenly, and cost even more. So how expensive are we talking? A note from the Yuan dynasty says, every night it costs 4 or 5 coins of oil to light a lamp for reading. Roughly speaking, a student's lamp oil for one night might cost the equivalent of 5 yuan in today's money. But the price of candles... The collected essentials of the song Hui Yao records that a single candle used for official business could cost over 100 coins, about 200 yuan in today's money. Even cheaper candles for commoners still cost 10 to 20 coins each. Lighting one candle for one night could cost more than 50 yuan in modern terms. So picture this, a normal person in ancient times wanting to read by candlelight at night. That was literally burning money. No wonder rich families liked to show off by putting out huge candle stands and lighting dozens of candles at once to brighten an entire hall. That was not just lighting, that was a light show saying, "Look how rich I am." The word to flaunt might as well have come from the way people used candles. Even a phrase we use today, calling someone stingy, a stingy little lamp type, actually has a real, technical meaning behind it. There really was a thing called a fuel-saving lamp in ancient times. Some designs had a hollow outer layer that could be filled with cold water to cool the lamp so that the oil burned more slowly. Another trick was simply not to trim the wick. If you let the wick burn shorter and shorter, the flame became weaker, but it also used less oil. So, studying late under the lamp was not just about being hardworking. It was also, very literally, a luxury. Today, when you tap your phone screen and the display lights up, you almost never think about the fact that you are enjoying something people in the past could not even dream of. Nighttime in another era. By now, you can probably feel that ancient nights ran on a completely different rhythm. The light was dim. The air smelled of lamp oil. When the wind blew outside, the shadows at the doorway moved like living things. People were very close to their light source and very close to the dark around them. Nighttime did not mean brightly lit streets and all-night scrolling. It meant quieter voices and a slower way of living. Imagine a young person in ancient times who wants to study. Candles are too expensive, so he uses a tung oil lamp. The light is unsteady and smoky. He has to hold the book very close to the flame, so close that the tip of his nose is almost touching the wick. He reads for a while, then looks up and sees that the walls of his home are already stained black from years of smoke. But that was the price he paid to walk a little farther down the road of learning. Now, think of a rich household, dozens of white wax candles burning at the same time. The whole hall bright as day. Candlelight reflects off gold and silver vessels, bouncing warm light all around. Guests drink and talk. Family members write, paint, or practice swordplay. In that room, the flickering of candles is not only light, it is status. It is the shape of wealth, seen through fire. For different social classes, nighttime looked completely different. Light as a long fight with darkness. In the end, you discover something interesting. No matter how times change, the human way of facing darkness is always similar. Fire pits, oil lamps, candles, lanterns, oil lamps again, kerosene lamps, electric lights. Every time a new lighting tool appeared, people at that time felt it was almost magical. In the past, lighting a lamp for a single evening could cost a whole day's income. Today, we press a switch and light up an entire room. So the next time you sit under a soft desk lamp, scrolling on your phone, remember, you are enjoying the result of thousands of years of human trial and error. A lamp is not just light. It is the way human beings refuse to give up in the face of darkness. Even a tiny bit of light is enough to let someone keep walking forward.
The sky in light, Nua healed the broken heart. Fuxi traced the world's design. Every age leaves stories bright. Yaya dynasty shaped bronze. Shang dynasty cast oracle bones. Thou dynasty built right. Qin dynasty forged the great walls. Han dynasty opened Silk Road winds. Three Kingdoms dynasty turned war to tales. Jin dynasty led ink and mountains bloom. Sui dynasty carved the Grand Canal. Tang dynasty crowned the world with art. Song Dynasty race. Learn